Joining me now is Mark Simone, Hall of Fame WOR radio host, Joe Concha, Fox News contributor, author of Progressively Worse, and Tammy Bruce, also a Fox News contributor and author of Fear Itself, Exposing the Left's Mind-Killing Agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. Mark, the garbage thing, okay, it's pretty bad. We'll worry about the apostrophes and the commas. I don't understand what he meant. Maybe he meant what he said. Maybe he said what he meant. I don't know. Point is, that is what people are talking about instead of her speech with 6 days left, and that is a bad thing for her. But then again, her speech was pretty bad, too. Now, make some sense of it. Sort this through. Do we believe Joe Biden, number one?
Yeah, they tried, he's a dictator. So then they tried he's a fascist. Then he was a Nazi. Then he was Hitler. Now it's garbage. Friday will be toxic waste. I mean, I don't know what it'll be next. It's frustration and anger on their part. They can't pull ahead in the polls. They can't make a policy argument against him. You do it all the time against her border policy, her defund the police. All that. You can argue the policy. She can't argue the policy. You know, for those of you that say, why does Donald Trump say these things? Why does he make these jokes? They all do it. They just do it in private. This is what they really think in private.
Which joke?
Whatever things he says that you think are too over the line.
Oh.
Biden does it. Kamala does it. They all do it in private. Trump just is not a politician. He'll do it right in front of you. But they really think everybody's garbage. It doesn't agree with them.
That may or may not be true, Tammy Bruce. Okay, I don't know. I have no idea. Getting into Joe Biden's head is way too hard for me.
There's a lot of room in there, though.
It's above my pay grade. I'm the first guy to admit it.
Yes, sir.
Jackie Heinrich, apostrophes and commas. She's smarter than I am, too. But if you look carefully, here's the problem. Kamala's speech was same old, same old. It was mostly a hate speech against Donald Trump. All right? And in terms of policy, it was bare bones, but what was there, we've already heard. We've heard it for 2-3 months, and we don't like it. And therein lies the real problem with 6 days left. She's not saying what's going to wake people up to support her again.
Yes, and even with how the polls are, even with recognizing that it has not worked, they can't change it. They just can't change it. And that's what's, I think, particularly strange. But it was an assessment that was really full of contempt for the American people. They didn't consider a plan B because they didn't think they would need one, in part because they thought Donald Trump would be in jail, right? They overestimate themselves.
Really?
Yes.
You think they actually,
all this fantasy.
Point. I haven't heard this point in a while.
The fantasy of either he'd be in jail or he'd be dead. Because we all know the rhetoric and how it moves people. Not that they're planning anything, but there are people that are to be tipped over. And even after the attempts, they did not change the rhetoric and what they were saying. So I think that their plan was she wouldn't have to be specific because there would be no opposition. That's one aspect. And now they're just hoping the media is going to carry them through, but they've seen that be lost with the lack of endorsements. That has been shocking. USA Today, Washington Post, the LA Times, as we know, and of course the unions weren't cooperating. My goodness, what an opportunity. The good news is Trump and his team have been ready not just to take it because they're not very good, but because they're a genuine alternative with a history of success. And that's what you like. And the assassination attempts and McDonald's showed the American people who Trump is as a human being, and they liked it, and they liked the strength, and they liked his empathy.
Hang on. It's a good point. You know, when you looked at the Trump lawfare weaponization attack, it's funny, you almost forget about it so long ago. Overturned, mostly overturned on appeal, certainly by the Supreme Court. If you added up the numbers, he'd be in jail, go Joe, 750 years, more or less, okay? 750 years. That didn't happen. In fact, none of it happened. In fact, Mr. Trump has come out better for it. His polls went higher, not lower. So I ask, if you follow Tammy's logic, which I think is very important logic, why would they be dumb enough to stay on this threat to democracy, weaponization, lawfare, throw them in jail approach, which has so utterly failed. This is like, tuna fish that's 3 weeks old. Why would you go there? Why would you possibly have a sandwich with that stuff in it?
Because when you watch Kamala Harris speak, it's not what she says, it's what she doesn't say, whether it be in speeches, whether it be in interviews. So last night, you mentioned Donald Trump's name broached 24 times in a 33-minute speech. How many times did she say the word inflation? 0. How many times did she say violent crime? 0. How many times did she talk about child sex trafficking across the border? 0. I didn't hear anything about Ukraine. 0. China. 0. Gaza, Israel. 0. So we didn't get anything. And when she does these speeches and these interviews, she can't move the needle because she's not making news because, to your point, it's lather, rinse, repeat. Meanwhile, I hear Trump out there, and he's talking about eliminating the income tax, right? Talked about tax breaks for family caregivers.
Yes, tax
no tax
credits
on tips
for caregivers. He unveils a little something new almost every time he speaks. And some people make fun of that. I don't make fun of that. First of all, it's probably planned. And second of all, they're good things. They're like things that middle income, middle class, working folks, kitchen table people who can't afford to buy a home or a car and so forth. They like that
He's
stuff.
talking about dreaming big again.
They don't care about price controls,
No, they don't.
gouging rent controls.
They like tax deductions
giving
on
black
auto loans,
businesses
right?
money that's going to all be free.
Sure.
Even the black business people didn't like that stuff. No, it's here. Look at it. Just come down to it. His stuff is good. Her stuff's no good. Okay, that's not part of the story here. They don't want to hear it. Well, she can't come up with anything that anybody seems to want anymore.
No, and she's got an army of great speechwriters.
Wait a second. Trump's smarter.
By about 80 IQ points. But
I'm sorry, I just couldn't resist that.
She's got an army of speechwriters. She could have all the policies crystal clear, but you're not
from Hollywood.
You're not going to like any of them.
All from Hollywood today.
She can't do policy because you will not like anything she's going to propose.
Am I wrong? She is the least policy savvy person we've seen in a very long time.
Well, yes, because
Probably, I don't even, maybe going well back into the 18th.
I don't know if she might be policy savvy simply because you've got to make a decision. It's not an accident to never talk about any policy, right? So what she mentions is the old socialist saw of price controls. It's this larger kind of Marxist overview. And the problem with that is people can't grasp, what does that mean for me? What is the immediate effect in my neighborhood, in my home? Trump's proposals are targeted at the immediate impact on the nature and the quality of your life because the individual matters. For the left, the individual is a nuisance. For them, it's this larger picture of the dream and the rainbows in the sky.
Run by
the major, gigantic, bureaucratic state. For the bureaucratic state to matter, the individual can't matter. That's why you don't hear about policy, because policies either are good for the individual or not. They want it to be this bigger, gigantic thing about identity politics, hate crimes.
That's all they know.
Trump is, an evil guy. By the way, for people wondering if we're just garbage now, don't forget, it started with Hillary, deplorable. When she went after the voters, that was the first time. Deplorable voters.
Big mistake.
Semi-fascist.
Obama.
White supremacist.
Obama, too, right?
And Nazi.
Guns and
now garbage.
To their Bibles and guns.
I mean, it's the same thing.
The same thing.
The left
it was
has
Obama and Hillary.
The left has disdain for middle-class values. That's what's happened. The old Democratic Party that Robert Kennedy Jr. talked about at Madison Square Garden, that old Democratic Party's gone. As he said, from his uncle JFK or his father Robert Kennedy or Martin Luther King and so forth, that party is gone. That's the whole damn problem. Look at Trump. You know why Trump can get this stuff in? He's from Queens.
Yes.
He's from Queens, darn it. He understands. I know he has a lot of money. Fine. But he's from Queens. And he goes to barbershops. And he goes to the McDonald's. He actually goes to the McDonald's, flips burgers in his tie and shirt sleeves. How cool is that?
And he likes the people.
Yeah, if you injected them all with truth serum, the only guy that would sound the same is Donald Trump. He'd be the same guy.
The argument is, we're going to get out. The producers are yelling at me, but so many people on this show, on the radio and everything, he's authentic. She's not. I don't mean to make it personal. I've never met the woman, honest to goodness. He's authentic. She's not. Joe, Concha, Mark Simone, Tammy Bruce, thank you ever so much.